think of the sarod, and chances are you'll think of my guest. For 10 years and more, he's been at the very top of his profession. He plays, he composes, and sometimes, just sometimes, he also sings. But today, of course, he's going to talk about himself as I introduce you to the legendary Amjad Ali Khan. Welcome to the program.
Thank you.
Now, you come from a remarkable musical family, the Senia Bangash Gharana. Tell me, for how many generations have you been associated with the sarod?
My sons, Aman and Ayan, they are the 7th generation. And I have got lots of disciples. So it's a very rich, old tradition.
In fact, a unique tradition. I don't think any one family could have been so long associated with it.
No, there have been longer traditions in vocal music and dancing.
But with the sarod?
Sarod is ours is the only one which is like this.
In fact, your family came across to India in the very early 1700s.
Yes.
Where did they come from?
Kabul, Afghanistan. And they lived in Rewa, then in Gwalior, and we have our family house, that's about nearly 300 years old, which is known as Sarod Ghar. It has been converted into a museum. It has all the old instruments of my forefathers, and we have collected instruments of other great masters.
In fact, you talk about old instruments. Am I not right in saying that the sarod as we know it today was in fact created by your family?
Yes, my forefathers created. In fact, the word sarod is a Persian word. Like sitar is a Persian word. Sarod means music, nagma, taranum.
What was the old instrument that your family brought across from Afghanistan?
You see, rabab is a very, very old instrument of Central Asia, Afghanistan, Iran. And even in our Indian history, I mean, Guru Nanak Ji was very fond of rabab. Bhai Mardana used to play rabab for him. So my family, my forefathers, they learned music from the family of Tansen. So in other words,
legendary Tansen.
Legendary Tansen. And he's also from Gwalior. He was born in Gwalior. His grave is in Gwalior. And I'm very fortunate that I was also born in Gwalior.
And the transition from the rabab in the 1700s to the sarod as we know it today was done in fact by your family.
You see, there was a reason of every time if there was any invention, because sarod became more expressive than rabab. Sitar became more expressive than veena. So, I mean, we are very fortunate, and we have preserved, we have nurtured. In fact, sarod, I only talk through my instrument.
Today, of course, you're going to talk through words. Your father, Ustad Hafiz Ali Khan, had 7 children and you were the youngest.
I'm the youngest, yes.
What sort of childhood did you have?
In fact, you know, I missed my childhood. I could not enjoy my childhood because from the very beginning of my life, I was made to, you know, understand and realize that I have become responsible to carry forward the tradition. So I struggled a lot in my childhood, and I became an old man. I started taking care of all the people around me, and I was working hard.
Were you very close to your father?
Yes, I was very close to him. In fact, till his last day, he passed away in 1972, and I could serve him, and I was at his bedside. And we had a lot of age difference. I mean, he was very old, but he was a great human being, great musician, purist. He dedicated his life for the purity of music. He never recorded.
And he brought you up to believe in the purity of music. That was the great tradition you had to carry through.
Yes, and he always felt that classical musicians, we are not entertainers. And that's why he didn't record. He says, people who have respect and love, they can only listen to Indian classical music. We are not entertainers.
Now, the name that he gave you when you were born and the name you had till you were 7 was very different to the name you have today.
Yes, my childhood name was Masoom Ali Khan. And till the time one holy man visited our house in saffron clothes and beard, and I remember a very, very kind face. And he used to love my father's sarod, so my father played for him. And then he looked at me, he says, what are you doing? I said, I'm just learning. He said, play for me. So I played little. And so he gave me this name. I mean, he says, from today you are Amjad, no more the old name.
And everyone just stopped calling you Masoom immediately?
Yes, I mean, gradually then we shifted to Delhi. So I think because of that, I was only called by this name.
Now, as you said, you grew up surrounded by your father's influence and obviously surrounded by music.
Yes.
At what age did you first start playing?
You know, it's very difficult to say what age, because the moment when a child is born in a family of musicians, you all the time listen and hear the music around you. And music slowly grows on you. And right from the age of maybe 6 months or 1 year, I mean, I can see my children, like when they started, when they were drawn towards music. So I realized that, I mean, Aman showed interest from the age of 1 or 1.5 years.
As young as that?
Yes. Ayan also, he showed equally interest in the music. And in fact, Aman had a small instrument I gave him to play.
But in your case, the amazing thing is that you gave your first public performance at the really young age of 12. Do you remember it?
That was at the age of 12, that was my first big festival where I performed in Calcutta, Sadarang Music Conference. And my father was also performing in that festival, and great masters were there. So, but in our family, you sit with the guru, we listen to the guru, and we don't announce that today Amjad Ali Khan, my son will perform today.
It just happens.
It just happens. It's a gradually you grow, and gradually you imbibe and you understand and you are experienced. So even for Amanian, I never said that I'm presenting Amanian today. It just happened.
But again, in your case, you're right when you say it just happens. But looking back, the myth that is today Amjad Ali Khan probably began somewhere in the early 70s. There were those 2 incredible all-night performances in Calcutta that everyone talks about.
Yes.
Tell me about them.
That was, it rarely happens, but for 9 hours I played in Calcutta, first concert, with 2 intervals. I began at 9 in the night, and by 7 in the morning, people wanted more. And that is Bengal. They love music. Maharashtra, South.
So you played right through the night and right up to dawn?
Yes. And the second time, when it happened, after the gap of 10 years or 15 years, people even broke. They wanted to come in.
There was an actual stampede?
Actual stampede. I was already on the stage, and the people were pouring from. I got so frightened. I said, what happened? And all the organizers started, they removed their badges and they kept.
So what did you do?
So then I took the mic. I said, please, do you want me to perform, or I should also go home? So they knew that I'm playing for all night, so they wanted to. They said, you don't play every day all night, so we must hear. We have right to listen to you. So people who love, they only can do this kind of thing.
You've had some amazing performances and you have some amazing fans. I gather in '97 you once played for Prince Charles at his home in Highgrove.
Yes, he invited us, and he's very fond of Sarod, and I didn't realize. He invited his 30 friends, very close friends, and I played without the microphone on that day. Microphone was, it failed, I don't know how. And I said I would like to play without the microphone, but it was very taxing. But Prince Charles is really very, very emotional, very kind person, and he has great regards for tradition and culture. And my wife, Subulakshmi, she was playing tambura with me, and she noticed that during the concert, Prince Charles had tears in his eyes. I mean, he was moved.
There was another occasion, wasn't there, maybe around about the same time, when in fact Princess Diana was shivering in the cold and you had to take steps to warm her up.
That happened in India, actually, when they came together at our Prime Minister's house, and it was a dinner in the garden. And, like this, the shawl was on my lap, and they were looking for shawl, and she was shivering, so I got up and gave my shawl.
And what happened to the shawl?
Shawl, all evening she wore, and as she was going, she wanted to return. And then I presented to her. I said, you keep it as a gift from my wife and me.
And was it as lovely and as expensive as that shawl you have on?
That was very, very antique. That was Jamewar shawl, about 400 years old shawl. That had the history.
400, it must have been a family heirloom.
Yes, and before it came to us, it had the history behind.
Let's talk a little about you, Khan Sahab, personally. Your friends say that when you were in your 20s, you were the heart heartthrob of Delhi. What were those days like?
No, I don't know. It's, you know, everything is because of music. And music, people who love music, they love me. And
although, to be honest, your friends say in those days it was your looks that attracted attention more than your music.
I still remember, Karanji, my first foreign tour was Afghanistan.
And in fact, Afghanistan is where the family comes from.
Yes, I mean, I met some other more Bangash people, you know,
so there is a Bangash tradition still in Afghanistan today?
Yes, yes, in Kabul. There are Bangash clan.
Now, I'm also told that Khan Sahib in his youth was a great teller of jokes and a wonderful mimic.
Now, you know, people think that I'm a very serious, you know, because we are serious, I mean, because the...
But not always serious.
No, that's not natural. Nobody can cry all his life. I mean, you do laugh, you do smile. So there was an old joke. I mean, somebody was singing, and there was 2,000 people, and he lost track of time. He closed his eyes and started singing, and when, after many hours, when he opened his eyes, there were only 2 people sitting. So he was very disappointed. He said, okay, you 2 knowledgeable people are, you know, good enough for me. They were all fools. They didn't understand music. So one person said, I'm sorry, sir, I'm waiting to take away the microphone and the carpet. So he was more disappointed. They said, okay, one person is enough. Then that person answered, he says, I'm sorry, but I'm waiting for my turn. I have to perform.
In 1975, you got married to the Bharatnatyam dancer Subbalakshmi Barua. When and how did you meet her?
She comes from Assam, from Sibsagar, and I saw her performance in Calcutta. It was a big festival where I was also performing. There were other great masters. In fact, Ustad Amir Khan Sahab recommended her name to the organizer, that you must see this girl.
When you saw her there on stage dancing, was it love at first sight?
I think so, because I thought, and when I saw her, I thought, this is the person God has sent for me. So I followed, and I tried to meet her, and then I proposed.
They say behind every successful man is a loving wife.
No,
is that true of you?
Yes, she's a great human being and beautiful person, and gradually, I mean, after marriage also she did perform. In fact, in Delhi we performed together for a charitable cause.
But then she gave up her career to look after you.
Slowly, she gave her career, but her guru, Rukmani Arundale, when she celebrated something in Kalakshetra, she invited my wife and me both. She gave a big reception, and she ordered that she should dance one item. She did one padam. So we are very, you know, fortunate that, you know, otherwise some children, their mother, they don't encourage for fine art, for music.
But she encourages her children.
Being an artist, you know, that, I mean, it's a good luck for Aman and Ayan to have a mother like that.
You're a very lucky person. Let's take a break. I want to come back in part 2 and talk about the music that you've made so famous. We'll be back in just a couple of moments. Stick with us. Welcome back. My guest is Amjad Ali Khan. Let's talk about music. They say the sarod is a difficult instrument to play. Just how difficult is it?
It doesn't have frets, you know, like guitar or mandolin. So it has a plain metal fingerboard, and I have to press the string with the edge of my nails. You know, our music, Indian classical music, is based on religion, spirituality, and faith. And even in there's a reflection of in music of our culture and tradition, that we touch feet of our guru, of our parents, our senior people. It's a great strength. I always talk about this, that we Indians, we have great strength of touching feet of our guru.
This is what you call, in a way, the Guru Shishya Parampara.
Guru Shishya Parampara, because we believe in faith. We believe in blessings. We believe in good wishes. And the same aspect, you know, this surrenderness is very, very important in our culture, in our tradition.
You've often said in your earlier and other interviews that Indian classical music isn't just entertainment, it's a way of life. Is this what you mean?
No, I'm trying to say that we learn more about the tehzeeb tamiz, the etiquette and all the manners. Just being a very good musician doesn't mean anything in classical world. You have to be very respectful, graceful. And, you know, there is a music all over the world. like Western music or folk music and this and that. Western music da 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 da. But in our music, the beautiful thing, the most important thing what we have is a mead, the slide. Da da ra na. So this is a sign of surrenderness, the grace, and this only exists in our music. Da ra na. And it's very soothing for the mind. You know, all over the world, why people are listening to Indian classical music? Because they find more peace, tranquility, and I mean, it's growing day by day.
You know, you spoke of the importance of surrender.
Yes.
Is this part of what you learn in the Guru Shishya Parampara?
Yes, this is what I learned from my father, from my Guru.
And this is what you're teaching your
sons?
sons?
We must have this, I will call it a strength, to surrender. I mean, we do surrender in front of God, but we must surrender in front of Guru and senior people. We must take blessings. Without blessings, we believe, you cannot be successful in your life. This is what I believe.
And in a sense, your sons, when they are with you as your disciples or your other disciples, are surrendering to you.
Yes, this is the system. This Guru Shish Parampara means that you trust, I mean, after God, you trust in your Guru.
But tell me something. Your sons are, in a sense, both your sons and your disciples.
Yes.
And in your time, you were also a son and disciple to your father.
Yes, yes.
Is there not a contradiction there somewhere?
No, I mean, it is more difficult to maintain this tradition today, I mean, in 21st century. So many distractions and temptations are there. But Amanian, they are very hardworking boys, very, very responsible, and they are on the right track. And I have the grown-up disciples who are 40, 50, 60, they are also performing very well.
Tell me something else. If Indian classical music is a way of life, as you say,
yes,
and if that way of life has to be learnt through the Guru Shishya Parampara,
yes,
then are you also saying that without that tradition, without that parampara, it's not possible to play good Indian classical music?
You know, this has been proved because we have so many institutions of music in all over country. But if you want to become a performer, if you want to be a, you know, you must go to a guru, you must take blessings of the guru. The institution could not produce a great performer.
So music is not just music, it's a way of life. You can't separate the two.
No, it's way of life. I hate to call it a profession.
Then tell me something. When people say that today classical music has become remote and distant, how do you make it more attractive? How do you make it appeal to the young MTV generation?
You know, I don't want to compromise. I mean, even I have audience even today, great audience, big audience. I perform for college students, I go to schools, and all over the world people are buying CDs and cassettes.
But the purity is important to you.
You see, I don't want to compromise. I don't want to dance around, you know, for cheap publicity. With dignity, with grace, I have to carry forward this message till I can.
Now you've done several compositions of your own,
yes,
ragas like Priyadarshini, Kamlashri, Kiran
yes,
Ranjani.
Yes.
Tell me about them.
Nearly 40 ragas I have. I don't feel comfortable to call it compose because I have discovered they are like, you know, Atma, soul, they just come. Da 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 na. This is, you know, melody comes in front of me, and the melody asked me, do you recognize me? I said, I don't know. I don't know, I've never heard. So would you accept me or should I go? I said, no, you please come to me, and then I give a name. So I can claim that I have composed, but it's not, I'm not being truthful to myself.
This is God speaking through you?
It comes from some cosmic powers. And I receive, I accept, and I give name. I mean, one rag I have made after as a tribute to my wife, I have composed one rag, Subbalakshmi. Mahatma Gandhi, Bapu Kaus I have made. Ustad Amir Khan Sahab, when he died in a car accident, Amiri Todi I made. On Swami Haridas I made a raga. So in so many different situations I have made. And recently I've made a music album.
Yes, with Gulzar. Vada.
Vada, yes.
Tell me about that.
Gulzars have written the lyrics. And that was also, you know, the compositions came to my mind. Da 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 da. तो गुलजार साहब wrote, दिल का रसिया ऐसा कहाँ होगा, दिल का रसिया ऐसा कहाँ होगा, इश्क की आग का धुआं जहाँ होगा, दिल का रसिया. So 9 songs of different moods I've composed, and this is my musical flirtation, you know. I'm flirting with music because I'm enjoying the creative freedom. Whereas in classical music, I am very disciplined. I can't take any, you know, liberties. So I think it's good for me to be, you know, little liberal.
This is, of course, the first time that you've been composing with music, verbal music, sung music.
Yes, yes.
Have you enjoyed it particularly?
I'm enjoying it. In fact, earlier also, there was a TV serial called Guftagu. Mr. Saeed Naqvi was the producer. And I composed 40 ghazals written by great, you know, like Amir Khusro, Ghalib, and Mir Taqi Mir. And all those 40 songs, 40 ghazals, are not in the market, but somebody has got it in Bombay.
So you look for challenges?
I'm enjoying, and I have composed for symphony, Hong Kong Philharmonic Orchestra also. I have respect for all kind of music, whether Western classical music, folk music, because every style, every aspect of music has a very strong character.
But then tell me this. For 10 years and more, you've been at the very top of your profession, and yet you're only 55 today. Where next? What's the next goal left to achieve?
I need your good wishes. I need blessings of all. In fact, my countrymen has really encouraged me right from my childhood. And now I feel I belong to every religion, every country, every state. I love to serve people all over the world.
Many people will hope that you continue to serve music for years and years to come. Thank you very much for a wonderful interview.
Thank you.